We begin with a fascinating case about a man who seems to attract disaster. First, his wife dies. His son is next. At the end of the day, he's nearly $1 million richer. So is this someone who simply cannot escape tragedy, or is he the master of a ruthless insurance scheme? His second wife didn't believe it at first until she says she discovered he'd taken out a $1.2 million insurance policy on her life. ABC's Lindsay Davis has the chilling story.
I didn't do it.
You're seeing for the very first time the video interrogation of a father accused of a terrible crime.
You know, and I know people are going to think what they want, and it's like there's no way.
Later this month, a jury will begin to hear the story you're hearing tonight. Is he the unluckiest guy in the world? Or is he the collector who kept getting richer as family members disappeared? It all began on an unseasonably warm November day.
911, what's location of your emergency?
I think I need an ambulance.
Cindy Karlsen and her husband Karl arrived at their home in Romulus, New York to find Karl's 23-year-old son Levi trapped under their truck in this barn.
Oh my God. I don't know how long he's been in there. We've been gone since noon.
Levi had volunteered to work on the transmission, but somehow while he was underneath it, the truck slipped off the jacks that were holding it up.
Okay, we're going to start CPR, okay?
Yeah, Carl, they want to start CPR. Do you know CPR? His chest is crushed.
Levi Karlsen, Karl's only son, was dead.
The officers at the scene didn't see anything out of the ordinary. They saw what appeared to be two grieving parents and what appeared to be an accident.
Of course, there were questions. It turned out Karl had recently taken out a $700,000 life insurance policy on Levi, and Levi had signed a handwritten will leaving everything to his father. But at the time, authorities say they didn't know about the life insurance policy or the will. It was all ruled a tragic accident, a once-in-a-lifetime tragedy that had actually happened to Karl Karlsen before. Back in 1991, Karl's first wife, Christina, Levi's mother, also died in a tragic accident, a house fire.
Looks good, you guys.
Karl and Christina were living here in Murphy's, California, with their 3 young children, says her sister Colette.
She was the consummate mom. You know, her goal in life was to be a mother.
Levi, boy.
Her son Levi was just 5 years old. Karlsen told police that Christina was in the bathroom when some kerosene that had spilled suddenly erupted in flames. He managed to get the kids out, but Christina was trapped in the fire.
When you get a call like that, you're just in shock.
Her sister Colette tried to move forward from her grief, but there were 2 things that gave her pause. Karlsen had taken out a $200,000 life insurance policy on his wife.
That doesn't sound like a lot by today's standards, but in 1991, it was a lot of money.
And the window to the bathroom had been boarded up with 17 nails.
When I found out that it was boarded, I just was in shock.
Karlsen told investigators the pane had broken, so he temporarily covered the window to keep the cold out. And police quickly ruled it an accidental fire. Christina's family had their suspicions, but Colette says for the good of the children, they put the best face on things, as Karl quickly moved across the country to New York State and remarried.
I had to set aside all of my suspicions because I was absolutely going to make sure those kids knew their mother.
But that all changed the day Colette found out Levi was dead.
I knew Karl did it. I didn't know what he had to gain, but I knew he did it.
But then in 2012, another member of the family contacted the New York police. That's when Lieutenant Investigator John Clear got involved for the first time and started checking out the long string of what he said were suspicious incidents.
It's extremely unlikely that someone would have that many tragic events a few weeks after they obtain exorbitantly high insurance policies.
Now the investigation was on, but how to get evidence?
Well, I contacted Cindy in March of 2012 and told her that I had reopened the investigation into the death of her stepson. And her first words were, "Thank God you called."
Karlsen's second wife, Cindy, now living apart from Karlsen, was finally having suspicions of her own, according to police. One big reason? Police say she'd found out Karl had recently taken out a $1.2 million life insurance policy on her, although Karlsen later denied it. She agreed to wear a wire, pretending to Karl that she was considering getting back together with him. And now, in an ABC News exclusive, you're about to hear part of that conversation for the first time.
Can you just tell me how things went that day so that I know in my head?
Karlsen grows suspicious of Cindy.
Part of me feels like I'm walking into a booby trap.
But he starts telling her more.
When I went in there, I jacked it up.
And what?
Then it slipped.
I asked you if you pushed the truck, and you said yes.
I didn't push the truck, I said I had nothing to do with it, but I said I took advantage of the situation once it happened.
With what they see as incriminating statements, the police bring Karlsen in for questioning.
So the reason that they brought you in today to finally talk to you was really over
my son, Levi.
At first, he denies it.
But to sit here and say that I killed my son, there's no way.
But as the hours go by, 9.5 hours in all, he switches stories. First, saying he'd found his son's body earlier, but hadn't said anything.
And I found him dead.
You went out there and the truck was rolled over on him?
Yeah.
Along the way, he repeatedly complains of feeling sick and needing his pain medications.
And I never used to be this way. But since I've been on all the medicine, there's times that I drive in a car and I get lost. And I get freaking panic attacks.
But finally, he tells police he'd been there in the room when the truck fell.
I opened the truck door because I had to get inside to move the linkage for the truck. And when I did, it tipped and it just fell over.
But according to the prosecution, he did it all for the insurance money. Karlsen has pled not guilty. His lawyer, speaking on his behalf, says he respectfully disagrees with the court's recent decision to allow the jury to hear the recorded conversations Karl Karlsen had with his wife and the videotaped interrogation. But Colette Buisson is angry that authorities in California didn't investigate her sister Christina's death more vigorously 20 years ago.
We all raised our concerns that we thought the fire looked very suspicious.
Stand right there, Chris.
The district attorney from Calaveras County said her office is now actively investigating the death as a homicide and cannot comment on an active investigation. But now, even with Karl Karlsen in jail awaiting trial, Colette and her family say they're filled with regret that they didn't do more to help Christina leave the man who they think was responsible for her death.
I mean, you live with that. Like, did we make the wrong decision? I'll have to live with that.
For Nightline, I'm Lindsay Davis in New York.